All right, let's go ahead and start. All right, we'll call to order the GPAC meeting. It's a hybrid meeting for Friday, April 3rd, and it is now 1:05, 1:06. So
I can go ahead and call roll if you like.
please do.
Paul Duncan? Nope. Kyle Bill? Yay. Thanks for being here in person. Phil Hartley? Here. Marty Ehrberg?
What was that?
Marty Ehrberg? I think she might have sent me an email. Benjamin Murphy. Ben Murphy from Water District. Donna Makowitz.
Here.
Betsy Kahn.
Is Betsy?
Betsy's online.
Betsy's
Yes.
online. Can she
Yes.
speak?
I think I heard her. That you, Betsy?
I don't hear.
Yes, thank you.
Awesome.
Good, thanks.
Weston Seifert. Not online. Sharon Zoller. Here. Carolyn Hillman. Here. Dan Terrell.
Not online.
Looks like he's here, or at least on Zoom.
You see him?
No. There's a Danny's phone, but I feel like it's getting wind.
Oh, okay. Fawn Williams. Margot Kambara.
Here.
Denise Freshing.
Here.
And April Lieferman. Who's here today? Nope. Okie-doke. Thank you.
Maybe just say that if any of the GPAC members are.
If any GPAC members are attending online and I called your name and you didn't get to say hi, would you raise your hand, please? I don't have an agenda. I know it looks a lot like the last agenda. Let me find one. Hold on.
Maybe we can go over what the agenda is first.
Absolutely. I say that like I can do that right now. Hold on one moment. Yes. Nope. Hold one moment. I know it'll look like the last agenda, but today we'll be covering geothermal resources and noise elements. You have it?
Yep.
Excellent. Shannon's going to post it in the Zoom.
Okay.
And do you want to go over what it is?
I do with it.
So if you're just joining us,
Yeah, our apologies.
our apologies.
We lost a clerk this week, so we have a couple gaps.
Okay, here we go. We covered the welcome roll call and we're doing the agenda review now. We'll have a 10-minute presentation by PlaceWorks on the two elements we'll be discussing today. And then a 25-minute question and answer period. And then we'll go into discussion. First, talking about the general plan overview. And then there's a couple of discussion questions related to that. Then to the geothermal resources element, and then to noise for about 45 minutes apiece. And I'll be posting this agenda in the chat for this meeting.
And may I ask, how is it we are handling the input from the committee that came in? Are we going to look at each of the items, or how do you recommend we go through that?
I think, and Tanya and Andrea can correct me if I'm mistaken, but they'll cover parts of the summary as they're covering their presentation.
Okay.
Let's use that as a launch point.
Okay. All right.
Additionally, at the GPAC's request, we were going to talk a little bit more about the timeline for year 3, the rest of year 3 of our 3-year tour for the general plan update.
Okay.
I can start with that. So the public documents were released towards the end of February. March and April have been dedicated to local area plan advisory committee meetings, general plan advisory committee meetings, and municipal advisory committee meetings. We're also going to have a stakeholder meeting for our Spanish speakers as a follow-up from the last one that we had in 2024. And then the input that we are gathering from these meetings and from our online email, either emails, messages sent through the lakecounty2050.org website or sent to the Lake County 2050 at lakecountyca.gov email address. Those are all going to be collected, some of which will prompt corrections to be done, and all input will be collected and captured, and we'll move forward with the final draft that is going to go to hearings for the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors in August and September. Denise and I were talking before the meeting about having one final GPAC recap meeting prior to the meetings that are scheduled in August for the Planning Commission and September for the board. And if the GPAC is amenable to that, we can go ahead and plan one of those. It'll probably be a virtual meeting.
Yeah, it would be my intention that that meeting summarize what happened to the input, basically.
That's great. Yeah, we'd be happy to report on that. So we'll go ahead and get that scheduled for probably August. I'll talk to our internal team about a timeline and when would be appropriate for that, and we'll set a virtual only meeting for that one. And send an email out to anyone who is on our GPAC list, as well as anyone who voices interest as well. I don't know that we'll send out an entire email blast to everybody, but definitely to those GPACs, probably the LAPACs too. I'm kind of thinking as I talk right now, sorry.
Okay. Now, at the end of this meeting, can we just look at the calendar for these meetings briefly, just to see how they unfold and how many more and when?
Well, we
Just to
have one
summarize
more
again.
of these GPAC meetings scheduled for 2 weeks from today, and that is to cover the health and safety element. And that should bring us to a close of GPAC meetings unless there is discussion and a necessity for another meeting.
Let me just ask, that was going to be virtual, is that going to be here in the chambers?
Turn your microphone on, please.
Yeah, turn your mic on.
So
Virtual or here in the chambers?
that is a virtual only meeting. Thank you. That agenda will be posted with a probably a Teams link.
I just wonder if we could consider, I mean, what is wonderful about these meetings is the in-person rich conversation. Zoom is harder, and I wonder if that is a possibility to have it
Hybrid?
hybrid.
I will check and see. We didn't have Sam available, so I'm not sure about the availability of a technician type person to be back in that back booth. But if IT has someone available, we'll see if we can do that.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Okay, so I guess that takes us to, are there any comments on agenda review, first of all? Any other? All right, that takes us to the presentations.
Thank you. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and get that going. Okay, so my name is Tanya Sundberg. I'm a principal with PlaceWorks, and I think you all know we're working with the county to prepare the general plan update. I just want to also say thank you to all of you who have been doing the review of the general plan and for sharing your comments with us in the survey. So what I'm going to cover in this presentation is really just a kind of summary of each chapter that we're going to be discussing today. It's going to be a pretty brief presentation. And our expectation is that we're going to use the same approach we used in the last meeting, where we're asking if you want to discuss the other GPAC member comments, things that you want to call out and discuss as a group, or if you want to call out any of your own comments to discuss with a group, this is your opportunity to do that. And I'll also note that the GPAC comments were organized and posted to the website under this meeting posting. There's a link on the calendar item for this meeting where you can access all of the GPAC member comments, and they're summarized by kind of element and where they fit within the element itself. Okay, so just a reminder of what I presented at our last meeting. The new general plan consists of these 6 countywide elements on the left, and then 6 elements that are prepared at the planning area level shown on the right. The planning area elements consolidate the former local area plans into the general plan document. And then some of those planning area elements also include special study areas and design guidelines, as you can see in the graphic. So the first chapter that we're going to be talking about today is not actually one of the general plan elements that contain policy guidance, but rather it's the introductory chapter of the general plan. It's called the General Plan Overview. And this chapter provides background information about the county, including its geographic and physical setting and its historical roots. It also describes what is in the general plan, including how it's organized and how it transitioned from having those separate local area plans into now a single integrated plan. It also describes how it addresses the requirements in state law about what general plans need to address. And then finally, it describes the process to prepare the Lake County 2050 general plan, including our engagement process and the advisory bodies like this GPAC and the local area plan advisory council committees. And I want to just pause here. I do have a few more slides, but on this topic of the general plan overview, I think Mireya is going to just share a little bit more about what the county's ongoing efforts to consult with the tribes on this particular chapter, since that's still underway. So Mireya, can you take a minute and speak to that before I move on?
Certainly. We have ongoing discussions with the tribes regarding the insertion of a portion of California history specific to Lake County. That's the treaties O and P that took place in the 1860s, I think it was. Regarding treaties that were made with the tribes by the federal government that were in closed session denied by the same government at the request of California, the state of California legislature, that would have deeded I think about 7% of the state of California, including areas in Lake County, to the Native American populations. It also required them to quitclaim their properties and then move to these new rancherias or territories, which they did, and then the treaties were denied. So that portion has affected a large part of Lake County's residents and has been inserted, as well as ongoing discussions to make sure we really get right the appropriate tribes and tribal names for land acknowledgements in each of the area plan elements.
I might note that the treaties were denied because California was trying to get statehood at the time, and they were in the way.
Thank you.
Great, thanks for that.
One moment, Tanya.
Oh, yeah.
Kyle has a question.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I do appreciate that there are broader discussions happening in that. And I know in there is a map that kind of outlines those land designations if it were to be ratified, which I think is good because it does kind of give more context to the land that was ceded over in those negotiations. I would suggest if there's an opportunity for a map to reflect all of the tribes in those areas, because even in the map where you see the lands that were going to be designated for tribes, you don't know which tribes those were traditional homelands to. So I think it's really valuable in telling that story, what tribes occupied certain land areas, because right now you don't see that. You just see kind of what current cities and communities are in that map, but we still don't see tribal, like, for example, on the west side of the lake, or the east side of the lake, we like the southeastern, you have Elam, Khoi, Kamdat, all of those traditional villages that might not have federally recognized, or don't have land base anymore. It's really important, I think, to map where those villages occupied so that people have a more context to that history.
So it's my understanding, and I appreciate that comment. Thank you. We'll definitely note that. In the conversations that I've listened to at the Tribal Historic Preservation Officer meetings, there are a significant number of tribes that I think instead of putting on the map, we could probably list what was included in, or the tribes and villages that were affected during the treaties O and P. But it's a pretty big list. But we can work with the TIPOs and the tribes to see if we can get as comprehensive as possible. But also note that it seemed as though there were still ongoing discussions regarding villages too.
Yeah, I think it would also be helpful if the tribes are willing to do that for planning commission purposes as well, to be able to have something to reference to as far as cultural sites or village sites. I think it might also be helpful for the public to be aware of that as well when we're hearing those conversations at the planning commission level, to kind of hear, because I think there's a misconception that we're only confined to the 7 federally recognized tribes, but we have to understand that there are other villages that are no longer recognized, but still have still need site protection and cultural preservation in those areas. So I think a map might be helpful as well as listing, but definitely just kind of a visual for everyone as well.
Yeah, we've
Good.
sort of launched
Thank
into
you.
discussion, and I'm not sure you're done presenting yet. I want you to hold your
Thanks.
comment for a moment. Are you,
I'll give it back to you to give back to Tanya. Thank you.
all right. I'm sorry, hold that comment and we'll
It's
open it
kind of
all.
relevant to what we're talking about, so.
If you keep it short.
I'd just like to comment that we could have street names named for the tribe. Because in the city of Clear Lake, they just named one of the streets Corporate Way.
Got it.
And it's like, let's use the tribal names. Thank you.
Corporate way. There you go. Just what we want. Okay. Tanya?
Okay, great. I'm going to move us on to the next topic for today, which is the draft geothermal resources element. So this element provides policy guidance to support the efficient, sustainable, and safe use of the county's geothermal resources. And it does that through policies and actions that are organized around these goals that you can see on the slide. So that includes policies and actions that promote research and innovation to optimize the use of geothermal resources, policies that provide well-defined and consistent geothermal planning processes, and that ensure geothermal resource development and operations minimize impacts on the environment, support healthy and safe communities and a high quality of life, protect water quality and supply, and protect air quality. And the last element we're going to discuss today is the draft noise element. So this element identifies major sources of noise, like the airport you can see on this photo, also noise from things like recreational activities on the lake and construction noise. And it also addresses roadway noise from vehicles, which is one of the major sources of noise in the county. It includes a series of maps that show both existing and expected future noise levels along major roadways, and we could estimate that based on the allowed land uses. And then it also includes land use compatibility standards for noise and those specify what levels of noise are acceptable for different types of land uses. So there's a lot to it, along with a set of policies and actions that protect the community from exposure to excessive noise. All of those policies and actions fit under this one goal shown on this slide, which is to promote an acceptable noise environment in all areas of the county. So I look forward to our discussion on these. I'm going to stop here and stop sharing my screen, and I'll hand it back to Chair Rushing. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so now we open it for a Q&A. I guess we'll go element by element. Is that what you would recommend? And let's start with the overview. And the Q&A is for the presenter and also, I guess, for the authors of the draft on this element. So let's talk about the overview first. Are there any comments or questions? Let's start with questions from the General Plan Advisory Committee on the overview. Margot.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Margot Kambara. Not so much a question, but this is a comment that I got from several residents in Scotts Valley, and that is the readability of the general plan. It's a challenge. There's an opportunity for this document to be a very useful tool for the next several decades, and it would be a shame that it was relegated to a dusty shelf because it's hard to read, or it's using jargon, or it's a little bit too plannerese technical. So if we can just use basic common sense, simple or a sentence structure, break text into paragraphs, that'd be great. I think that's a simpler fix than anything else. Thank you.
I noticed that you did have one question in your comments, and that was, were GPAC member written comments incorporated into the draft? We had written comments some time ago. Yeah, and I know a few of mine were not, so I just made the comments again. But were those incorporated in the draft of the overview? Actually, that's the geothermal element. No, this is the overview. You've got it labeled wrong. Yeah, so for the overview, were our comments incorporated yet?
I'll defer to our PlaceWorks team regarding the writing and integration of the input that came from 2024 into these current drafts.
Yeah, and we had a lot of input and we consulted it all. I think not every single bit is going to be reflected exactly, but there's all of it was read and considered and incorporated where we felt it was appropriate. But there's certainly, if there are things that were omitted that were in prior letters that are especially that you want to pull out again and resubmit and have us consider again, I think this is the right time to do that.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to, again, just make sure that it's on the record that, when I joined, I did submit an example for there to be a tribal element to be added to the general plan to ensure that a lot of the questions or concerns that I think in process might come up as regard to engagement with tribes and consultation with tribes. So I did want to just mention that I still would strongly like to see and just making sure that it's on the record that there be a tribal element added to this. I don't know if we're at the point where we can't, but there should be a tribal element added to a general plan. That when you look at each of these elements, there are tribal processes, I think, that should be honored, and there should be engagement, even with naming of different areas in the community where there could be some engagement with the local tribes. So I would just say that I just wanted to make that clear that over a year ago when I joined, I did provide some template language for a tribal element, and I would have liked to have seen that being incorporated because we are looking at 2050. So I think it is very important that be included, and just wanted to make sure that I expressed that.
Thank you. I put my comments actually in this document, but I do want to highlight that in 2024, I asked that we also mention Mount Canocti in the overview, as it is sacred to the tribal peoples and its center, an iconic center to our county. I had also asked that we consider, and I guess it was rejected, but I'd like to re-ask that we consider a statement of values, and this should be something that the board weighs in on. That we, the GPAC, give them a possible statement of values. We talked about it, I think, a lot at the beginning, and I haven't seen it in there. And maybe I missed it, but it's not in there yet. So just preserving, the kinds of things that, the reason we have a plan. Mm-hmm. And the values that we hold. So we did have a long conversation on those values, I think, and it'd be good to see that reflected in the overview. All right, so, yeah, go.
I just wanted to ask, in reference to your comments on including a tribal information, is not, in your view, that needs to go beyond what's currently there?
Yeah, right now it's just in the overview, right?
Pardon?
It's in the overview.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I'll ask the question, follow up, and then I'd like you to weigh in. We have some elements of the general plan that are not included in this, but that will come out later. Housing element, for example. If we were to recommend and initiate a tribal element that talks about all these things, includes the maps that he's talking about, et cetera, I don't foresee that it would have to slow down the general plan process. It would have to have a deadline of its own because it would be initiated obviously far later than this plan was started. Would that make sense?
At this point, it could be included as a goal or a policy or an action. So something
to come up with that element.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so what we're already working on is a cultural heritage resource policy. I think that that's going to be an important stepping stone in that kind of future element, and as well as our co-management agreement, which I think will also inform that future element as well. But since it's not part of this scope of work, and this general plan is scheduled to go before the board already, so quickly, but it wasn't in the scope of work, I don't think we'll add it in there, but let's capture that as a goal or a policy or action in it somewhere.
The goal,
So that it
the
kinda
goal
gives us-
being specifically to create an element in the future.
Well, the goal, I think, would be a little more broad, in more of collaboration with tribal governments on blah, something, 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 something. And then it could be a policy under that of establishing an element. It's more of a directive or a marching order for the future.
Does that work for you?
Yeah, if that's, I think that might be the better plan, because to my knowledge, this is the first time a tribal representative position has been on a general planning, or for the general plan in general. So I do think if there were kind of, I guess if we're not able to do it now, that there would be, long after we're gone, that be a goal, and I think it will take intentional planning and coordination with the tribes on what that element will look like. So given that we want to be intentional in that work, I do think that it should be something that be included in future general plan, adding a standalone element that's tribal specific.
Noted. Thank you.
Thank
Can I
you.
just ask you mentioned a co-management policy? Can you just say more about
We
that?
do
What
have
does that
a
mean?
co-management agreement currently at work at the board level for between the state, the county, and the tribes, for management of Clear Lake and its watersheds.
All right, I'm going to ask a process question. So we're now in the Q&A for the presentation to get questions answered, but I think we're sort of devolving into a conversation. So let's open it up for questions that might still exist on any of the items presented, and then I think we should structure the conversations around each element. Does that make sense?
I defer to your classroom management skills, yes. Keep the meeting
right.
going.
All right. Are there any more questions specifically, not comments, questions about the presentation or about, anything that might have been confusing as you went through this process of review?
Can I just note that Betsy has her hand raised in the Zoom?
Okay. We have one person that's approaching the mic, Betsy, and then you're on after that. So go ahead.
Thank you. Been a long time, year and a half, I think, since I stood before you folks. My question is that when you guys first talked about reconvening a meeting of you guys, and then the meeting was then set for August, which seemed to me was the date of the Planning Commission and the date of the Board of Supervisors. And just in hearing what you're saying here right now is that there's a lot of stuff that still may not got included in that draft that you may want to change. That having it in August, that doesn't leave much time if you find out in August that
Half our comments were
something
missed.
got overlooked. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think that date, you guys might want to consider that date in June or something like that. That's all I have.
Thank you.
We can take that internally for the internal team for when the drafts will actually be ready.
Yeah, you give us a
Schedule
little
it after
time.
that.
Yeah, give us a little time to digest what the draft, we need to
That's fair.
digest the draft, we need a chance to look at it and make sure that our comments were either included or excluded, and then have the conversation about the rationale.
Fair enough.
All right, Betsy, you're on.
Well, I'm going to violate the rule, of course, right off the bat, because I could formulate this as a question, but I'll just leave it as a comment. In the previous meeting and in failed communications that I have not been able to succeed having answers to from CDD, and my own inability to organize around this, I have raised the questions about integrating issues that are discussed in the plan. We talked at the last meeting about, I think Denise, you mentioned the fact that there was a land use element in the previous plan. I think there are some large issues with the way the plan is put together. to the subject of tribal comments, there is, in each of the planning area sections, there is a specific reiteration of tribal concerns or presence in each of those area plan things. But I'm concerned that we're not really tackling the structure of this well enough, and I thank you for letting me comment. We'll just go right ahead.
Thank you, Bessie. And
We have one more comment on Zoom.
1 second. Maria, question, when we gave the input that said there needs to be a land use element of the general plan, even though the land use is covered in all the area plans, I understand that. And I saw the presentation last time that said the rationale why. But there's so many things in common in all these area plans that could be pulled into the land use element as it was in 2008. Has the committee, or has the team considered that? And did you reject it, the idea, or accept the idea?
That comment has been noted in a few different meetings, but we have not had the time to actually go over all the comments and either accept them or reject them yet. We're
Okay,
kind
that's
of
a
in the
pretty big
thick of
one, as it's a
input gathering.
That's a big one because it's structural, obviously.
Indeed,
Right.
yes.
Okay.
It would have to be, we'd have to also evaluate it in light of our timeline, since the timeline is firm.
All right, then. That's not good news.
No, it's not, but we've known that for 3 years because it's ARPA. It's ARPA funds that have to be done. So this project needs to be done by the end of this year.
Okay, well, I could pull out the land use element if you would like.
I didn't
For
say it was going to be denied, just saying
Okay.
that's sort of the filter that we need to view all of the comments.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
We do have somebody online, is that right?
We do.
Who is?
Sterling, go ahead.
Hello, I'm I'm kind of confused. Can I comment on the geothermal right now, or do I need to wait until you guys? finish?
Sterling, could you wait for just a moment? Do you have any questions about the geothermal or questions about the presentation so far?
So, well, yeah, I guess my question about the presentation, I've already mentioned this once before. The National Weather Service as of April 16th of 26, has rezoned Lake County. And in my region, we are zone 120, which is one of the most fire hazard areas, wind prone areas for the whole county. We need to make sure that we kind of use that because our county is actually a really fire prone area. And then that can help us get certain grants for places like Spring Valley that don't have another way in or out that's super fire prone. So I believe that's something else that we should really be adding to
Sterling,
this
is that in
general-
the form of a question? The question is, are we adding that?
Yeah, are you guys thinking about adding it? Yes, thank you.
I think at the Earth meeting where Sterling first made that comment, I requested she send it in via writing through an email. But as I just told you, we have not had time to actually make decisions on any of the input. We're really busy gathering that input right
so
now.
that's there's a common theme to the questions, and the questions are like, have you taken my input?
Yes.
All right, got it. Question?
Actually, I think I have an answer. Correct me if I am wrong, but the general plan can be amended up to 4 times per year. And I have a proposal that I am preparing that suggests that since there has to be a progress report turned into the state of California on the 1st of April every year, that between February 1st and April 1st, we have some open comment. And we actually review it once a year.
Great. Go ahead and state your name, by the way.
My name's Stephen Walski from
Thank you.
Clear Lake.
Yeah, thank you. All right, any more questions? Then we can move into discussion element by element. All right. Now, we've kind of done a lot of discussion on the overview, but I will continue to open it up and see if there's any more discussion on the overview itself. So first, the GPAC. Do you have any points you need to make on the overview that haven't already been made? Anybody online? Okay, we did
No.
work on that one. Okay. Let's move into the geothermal element then and open it for discussion. First with the GPAC, any comments or discussion items that you'd like to bring up? And we have the comments that we received that were synthesized, and we also have a long set of emails that I did not get, I got through about half of them, so.
I just had couple of discussion questions. Again, really appreciate that there are citizens in our county that are knowledgeable and, pay attention to these very technical issues. Is certainly above my level of expertise. So I just wanted to say, thank you to people who took the time to comment in some detail on this section. On some of the comments, one comment which is interesting is whether or not the county should encourage research in geothermal technology and should be a site for research of new techniques and new innovations. The writer suggested that the answer to that question should be no. I don't know if that's the right answer or not.
So that's worth a conversation, new
That's
innovations.
for conversation, yeah.
Okay.
Another one, it's a small thing, but I deal with it. And it has to do with inspections and the frequency of inspections for any service. It differs, it varies. CAL FIRE does 3-year inspections. My community does every single year. The occurs to me that the issues involved in that decision of how often should inspections be required of any enterprise are, first of all, if you're asking for the inspections to be done by experts, by people who really know, what is the availability and the ease of scheduling experts in our area? Because in the inspections I schedule every year, that's an issue. We try to hang on to the one we have because there aren't really any alternatives. The other one is, the question we always ask is it likely that things have changed in a 12-month period, that need to be attended to? So the health department does inspections of our pool facilities every year because they assume that some things have changed in the previous 12 months that need attending to. And they're very vigilant, very vigilant, and they find such things. Other inspection processes, don't think that every single year there's going to be some significant change that they better, pay attention to. I don't have an answer to that. It's just, I think, a consideration when you're setting mandatory inspection processes, that the county's certainly doesn't have the staff to do, or maybe they do or maybe they don't. But it's an issue in this county of, do you have the ready availability of experts to fill that mandate? Otherwise, what happens is they get delayed. Oh, well, we weren't able to get that, so we're delaying this inspection for this many, So should it be 1 year,
We do
2
perform
years, 3
annual
years?
inspections of the geysers. We do perform annual inspections of the geysers just through planning division. I know air quality also has they have their different expertise
Right.
and their focus. So there are ongoing inspections
And those are all
throughout the
paid by
year.
the industry, right? I mean, like the
Oh,
city
yeah.
of California has an elevator inspection, and we have that one
Yes.
elevator at the castle, right?
Okay,
You have to go through it,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to pay for it.
Yes.
okay.
And,
So you're-
and they ship somebody from Sacramento to do
We probably couldn't tell you how to build one of their machines, but we can look at the use permit and the conditions that we're responsible for and see if
So
they're
your
being
response
done.
is that, to that input that I read, that's standard, that's already standard practice?
Yeah.
Great answer.
Sure.
Thank you.
I will add a caveat, though. We are looking for opportunities to deepen and increase our training as well, because there are updates to the industries, and so we'd like to be aware of those also. And we are seeing an increasing number of inquiries on other sustainable energy sources. And so we'd like to not be reactive, we'd like to be proactive, so we do look for training opportunities so that our staff isn't at a disadvantage.
As I look through the geothermal comments, there were a number of things that came out that looked like they would be good discussion items. One would be setbacks. One would be the concept of the energy policy that does not yet exist. I mean, suggested or incorporated somehow into the plan. And another would be the use of the roads issue, the use of roads, quote, and trails. And I think there was sort of an objection to trails being used as roads. And then the strength of the language that came up in a couple of circumstances, the strengthening the language. The 2008 plan had some stronger language in terms of shall versus may kind of things. Are there any other areas of discussion that we should have as a committee? You had the environmental.
Madam Chair, Donna.
Yes,
Quitz.
Donna.
A lot of the outreach that I receive are strongly against any setback changes. Keep them as they are, or maybe even strengthen them. And it was pointed out that the word animals was only mentioned one time in the 14 pages. So we aren't really looking at how everything geothermal is affecting our native
Wildlife.
animals.
So you're okay with setbacks being a conversation that we have?
Yes.
Any other areas of conversation that are key to this?
We have
Sort of
Betsy Kahn online also with her hand up.
Yeah, Betsy.
Go ahead, Betsy.
Yes, I just want to reinforce the mention that you made, Denise, to the need for an energy policy. Geothermal is just one form of energy, and the Board of Supervisors, and I believe Director Turner knows how many different alternative ideas have been brought forward just this year alone. And I think we need more than just geothermal. Thank you.
We also might have a conversation of cumulative impact. And the thing to keep in mind with geothermal is that if you've ever been through a geothermal region, you know that those people living there are living in an industrial zone, basically. And it may not have been one when that first started, but it certainly is one. And that causes all kinds of the problems that industry would cause. All right, so why don't we go through these one at a time? Why don't we start with setbacks, since you brought it up, Donna? Conversation of setbacks. 2008 had a pretty strong policy on that.
Yes, and everyone seems to agree that that should be kept in place. This seems to weaken it a little bit, and it's open to interpretation.
Could you point out exactly where it weakens it? I'd like to take a look at that language.
I will look at that in just a second.
I think I had it in here.
I don't remember in any of our internal discussions even considering changing the geothermal buffer.
GR1?
Madam Chair, I have a recollection of one entry. I remember reading in the draft where it says, recommend adjusting or revising Article 27, I believe, to accommodate industry for more flexible setbacks. That's what I recall. I couldn't give you a precise citation right now.
Right, and
Okay, but you
setbacks.
read it in there somewhere? Okay.
So the recommendation is to
I see probably in GR1.A, review current geothermal setback map and requirements in Article 27, ... on and on, for potential updates and amendments to accommodate technological and industrial advances to support geothermal and other sustainable power generation options.
And
That's
the
probably
recommendation is to maintain or strengthen the standards from what we had in 2008 from Clear Lake and other sensitive water bodies consistent with those, or improving on the 2008. Is that right, Donna?
I believe so. It may have been in the geothermal setback ordinance also.
Yeah. Well, it refers to an ordinance that we don't have. That could change too, but
So goal
policy.
GR3 also is geothermal resource development and operations that minimize impacts on the local environment.
I believe that was minimize visual impacts, I believe.
I'm reading goal number 3 right now. Geothermal resource development and operations that minimize impacts on the local environment. I'm checking for a visual one, but. So it does remain, also development and operations that protect water quality and supply. So that's consistent with what you just mentioned about the lake. Protect air quality. Good. Is there anything that we're missing, though, that you're seeing?
Back to the strength of language, just kind of review that.
Yeah, overall, okay, good. We'll make note of that one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. So I want to highlight the to kind of bring to the forefront around a lot of this is talking about mitigation instead of avoiding cultural site disturbance. And I think we want to make sure that any cultural landscapes that are nearby and if these potential developments can be if during the tribal consultation period that there is plans to avoid cultural sites, any areas that might be culturally significant as far as the landscape, because we're talking about a lot of like hot springs, which for many tribes could have cultural importance and value. And so, development is really important to think about how that might disrupt cultural access to those resources. And so I think that there might need to be some language around how they're going to kind of have collaboration with the tribes to identify those sites, and not just as far as mitigating damage, but avoiding damage as much as possible. And so I think the lack of buffers need to be addressed when it comes to culturally sensitive sites that might be identified in any projects with the tribe. So, you could put a site near putting a site next to a cemetery might be legal through zoning, but it doesn't make it appropriate for something like that to be near a site, especially if it's going to be used for cultural purposes. So I just wanted to highlight that in that section.
So goal number 2 does state well-defined and consistent geothermal planning processes that involve collective participation of residents, tribes, industries, and public agencies. I would think then this would be a good place to insert a policy that talks about pursuing early and ongoing collaboration with tribes in order to avoid and or minimize impacts in future development, something like that.
I think that could be. I also wanted to see how the co-management agreement might play into that. Is there going to be any kind of overlap in that?
Co-management is specific to the lake and its watershed, so it wouldn't cover geothermal. Okay. Yeah, so we'd want to make sure we put something in here then, because it wouldn't naturally overlap from that agreement.
Yeah, and also just kind of seeing how can we strengthen the and I don't know if it's this section or if it was in GR 6, but as far as the permitting process is to, if there's a way that we can create some kind of co-management agreements with these permitting processes, so that the tribes also have a stronger say in the permitting process. So if there's a site that's identified, how can the tribe be a part of ensuring that those are don't get disturbed, or there's some type of plan that the tribe is possibly in partnership with development.
So just the little that I know about the co-management agreement, since the county does have jurisdiction deferred by the state over the lake, they are in a position to make those sort of co-management agreements. But as opposed to geothermal resources, which are on private land, I'm not sure we'd have the same sort of structure available to us. But we could include a policy that talks about collaborating, something similar to that. But I'm not sure that we have the strength to impose, or we have the authority to impose any sort of co-management sort of authority on that.
Okay, thank you.
However, we do need to continue to recognize that during these discretionary permit processes, we are following the letter and the spirit of AB 52 and SB 18 were necessary to make sure that those collaborations are ongoing and meaningful.
Yeah, and that's the part. I think that the biggest challenge is a lot of times consultation is just very kind of subjective to, there's not always from the tribal perspective, consultation means something very differently from the developer or the county.
Understood. Yeah, because it is all within the constraints of what the county has the authority to do. Yeah. Thank you.
Right.
Betsy has her hand raised again.
Yeah, Betsy.
Thank you, Tanya. Yeah, I understand exactly where Kyle is coming from, and the sense that we're going to mitigate, but never do we actually say we'll not allow this. And I want to comment on Maria's comment about the co-management agreement, which she says only covers the lake and the watershed. The watershed is everything, including all of those geothermal resources, hot springs, cultural resources, uh, water quality impacts.
It's true.
We're expecting that to have a very powerful level of constraint, where the general plan language seems to be as broadly open as possible to any sort of development.
Yeah.
And that was my comment.
I'm with Betsy.
Thank you. I also want to point out there are some things, who was that?
I think that was Sterling.
Okay, I want to point out there's some things that have gotten stronger in the plan, and the geothermal element. We've expanded some of the, let's see, we've expanded the monitoring requirement on seismicity, on subsidence, et cetera. And we have a stronger requirement for water conservation. The long list here, but anyway, so there are a number of things that have gotten stronger, and I do want to say thank you for that. Right.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And to ensure that that strength transmits to benefit, we have to have qualified inspectors. And unfortunately, if we go by our lived experience in the county, we don't always have those qualified individuals on staff.
Are you recommending a policy change of some kind?
Well,
If I could just add that we also do have the authority to hire on inspectors where we feel that we do not have the knowledge to cover.
Yeah.
That already exists.
and I'm glad to hear that. But what we find in with some of our discretionary permits, where inspections and reports are required, we don't have staff or consultants, independent consultants hired to review these permit applications. And so when the stakes are higher with geothermal, especially when new technologies and new techniques, which may involve greater risks, are involved, we need to have qualified individuals who are able to spot problems early on. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Go ahead.
Wes Baker. I was just going to say on the, first, I've got some comments I've got 6 copies. Is this acceptable to give to you guys? Or
Well, if
Maria,
you do,
should
we'll
I-
make sure we get copies to people.
And I could send it to Myrea
Do that.
in an email, in
Electronic
a
is good.
PDF. Would that be better than handing these out right now?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know what, I tried to do it online,
Wes,
but I had
thank
a
you
bad
very much.
link.
That's perfect.
What I was going to talk about was like what our member here was just talking about, was that there's got to be a point where not everything is mitigated, that there are some things we got to say,
Avoid.
no, it's not going to happen. And one of them, like he was saying, was the cultural resource of archaeology, which is digging and finding that stuff, is destructive. Once it starts, it's not there no more. That cultural resource has
So
been
no development on known archaeological sites.
right, and you got to say no. And once that gets, by an archaeologist says yes, the stuff is here, and their main purpose for that is that they hope that in the future there'll be a way to do it without being destructive, like through maybe better ground penetrating radars and stuff like that. But on the subject of what I want to say in that same thing of where you got to say no, is that all through this geothermal, and it's well written. You guys did a great job, everybody. I like it. Some things in it I don't like. I like geothermal. Don't think that I'm against geothermal at all. I worked in that industry for over 25 years. As an environmental health and safety director, what we got to say no to, though, is things that we can't mitigate. All through this, it talks about mitigating noise. We can mitigate noise even after the thing's built. They can not work so many hours. You know, I mean, there's a million ways to mitigate noise. Traffic, you just don't have so much traffic, and roads are bad. Remake them, you know. But the one thing we can't mitigate is underground water pollution. Mm-hmm. There's no way we can do that. And this talks about injecting. And the only way a geothermal can affect the underground is by injecting something into the underground. And what they like to do, up here at the geysers, they're injecting gray water, which is, gray water is, we just let it leach out in our leach field on a lot of the properties here in Lake County. It's not that bad of a thing. But what a lot of these injection wells, what they like to do is they use what they call a fracking fluid, which is a mixture. And I can tell you from 25 years of working in the industry all over the United States and Canada is that these companies that use fracking fluid, Halliburton's the biggest one, and the last people that wanted it was here before the board was Sonoma Clean Power. They wanted Halliburton to do their drilling here. So, and what Halliburton does is they have in their fracking fluid, it's proprietary. They don't disclose what is in it. And what is in it is bad chemicals. Most of them are petrochemical of some kind.
That they don't.
Yeah, in this here, it mentions water injection. And that's great if it's stated that. But I think it needs, like you said, Denise, stronger language just saying, you know, no chemical or no proprietary. You know, if you are going to put it in the ground, let us know what it is for the protection of the workers, for the protection of the people that depend on the aquifer, and something in there saying no listed chemicals that are on the Prop 65 list in the state of California.
Into the water.
Yeah, and short of that, I mean, it was good to see that they put water in there. You know, it says water, but they will go beyond water if they can. If they can.
Good.
It's just to prevent the bad actor. It's not to say no to everybody, but and I'm not, you know, we don't need to discriminate against if the Canadians want to come down here and do it. You know, I mean, they're completely different than Halliburton, what they do. And it'll just let them know that we got rules here for the protection of our aquifer. Our lake is bad. We're trying to clean it up. We can't clean up the underground.
That's right.
We can't.
Thank you, Wes. That's a good point.
Chair Rushing, if you have it open to the public, I've got 2 hands on Zoom.
Okay, one moment. Let's go back to.
Sorry, yeah, I just wanted to thank you for making that point. That I think that's the point that I'm trying to make from a tribal perspective is there's no way that you can mitigate those cultural damages. Once it's done, it can't be undone, especially if it's a spiritual site that is going to be disrupted. There's no way that you can mitigate those things, and we're still feeling those the cultural disruptions that we've had with the health of the lake. There are certain ceremonies that we would do, bathing with the water, using the water. We can't do that anymore because of the health of the lake. And so those are the things that we're considering when we're making these statements and trying to get, ensuring those protections take place, because they do impact tribal communities in ways that the public might not be aware. But even today, some of the health of the lake is impacting our cultural practices and access to the resources here. So I just wanted to appreciate the comment.
Thank you for that. Okay, any other comments or on this topic of, we were on setbacks, we're going to move into energy, but any other comments from the GPAC? Yes.
I think it's kind of related, but just to go along with the language shall avoid or encourage, kind of with the geothermal, just require restrict avoidance or full mitigation of the NOA ground disturbance in mandatory compliance with the Lake County air quality, I forget, what is MD?
AQMD, yeah,
yes.
Air quality management
rules. That's just my recommendation, so that way it will also, with farming, having that with the agricultural impact report, so that any asbestos or any other chemicals that come up from the ground.
Right. Thank you. All right, let's go ahead and, if there's no hand raised here, let's go ahead and open it to the public.
Go ahead, Sterling.
Please state your name if you're speaking on geothermal.
Yes.
This is on the geothermal.
Yeah, I know, I've been waiting. Okay, my name is Sterling Wellman, I'm a resident of Lake County. Okay, so I want to speak today about the geothermal development as it relates to the General Plan 2050 and why it is critical this plan clearly defines the county's expectations before any further expansion occurs. So I have spoken with a former well driller operator from the geysers who worked up there through the 80s and 90s. He described the force involved with drilling into steam pockets, pressure release that causes rumbling, growling, and even lifting rigs off the ground. Whether every project presents the same condition or not, this firsthand experience is a reminder that geothermal development involves real physical force and risk, and it should be treated accurately and accordingly. At the same time, Assembly Bill 531 has passed now, which streamlines geothermal permitting at a state level. That bill explicitly lists Sonoma Clean Power as a sponsor, and it reflects the broad push to expand geothermal development in our county. Additionally, there are known areas of interest for geothermal development within close proximity to the city of Clear Lake, including locations near a wastewater treatment facility and surrounding properties. These areas are within distance of residential communities, including where I live. Given this, the public deserves transparency. In the county, if the county is aware sorry, I lost my spot. Talking potential geothermal locations, that information should be clearly reflected into the general plan so residents can understand what may be coming into their communities over the next 25 years. The general plan should not just encourage geothermal development, it must clearly define it. Public health and safety protections, noise and infrastructure protections, environmental safety safeguards, and enforceable financial benefits to Lake County and its residents. We cannot approve projects first and try to negotiate protections later. If we do not establish our terms now, we risk losing leverage under the current state framework. Lake County should not repeat past mistakes where control over essential resources was weakened. If we are going to take on the risk of geothermal development, then we must also secure the protections and the benefits in advance. So that's my concern. I did bring this up before. I was kind of shut down about it. I'm very strong about this. I'm sorry, this is my first time on this meeting. The gentleman that's been speaking about the tribal, the spot that they're actually looking at, and Mariah knows exactly where I'm talking about, it's a land Purdy. And they're gonna go down into the ground and they're gonna frack and go horizontal all the way almost to the Elam Colony, which is in District 3. So this geothermal part needs to be lined out very, very clearly, because if we don't line this out now in our general plan for the next 25 years of what we want, and we agree to having geothermal come in here, because the way that this general plan is written, they can supersede us through the state and we lose all control of our geothermal. Like what happened at the Sulphur Bank mine, outside agencies, we let them come in. The Elam Colony is now living with this.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
And we have Holly Harris. Go ahead, Holly.
Holly.
Oh, hi, thank you. I'm not actually sure. We started talking about the GR 1.A, which was review the current geothermal setback map and requirements, and for potential updates and amendments. And I'm not sure where what actually came from that discussion.
Yeah, we're sort of in the middle of that discussion. Would you like to make a point about setbacks?
Yes, yes, I would like to. First of all, I just do not believe that we should be changing that. I think someone said before we should be enhancing and strengthening it. The purpose of the geothermal setback was basically to, it goes from the shoreline to the ridge line all the way around the lake. And we talk about various things in GR3. It's minimize the impacts on the local environment. GR 4.1 says prohibit geothermal operations near residences, commercial resorts, or sensitive receptors, which is certainly there. This is not an area that was called out as being a high potential. It's not an area that was called out on the geothermal resources map. And if we look at some of the things that are in the area plans under open space and conservation, we have a lot about preserving and enhancing views from and of the lake, scenic view sheds. We also talk about in this entire element, the health and safety hazards that are going on. And Denise, as you said before, this is really an industrial operation. If we're talking about the health and safety hazards, we also talk about environmental justice in the local area plans. And we talk about not exposing equity populations to industrial issues, and a lot of the areas around the lake are part of the equity group. So I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you so much. All right. Any other public comment or GPAC member comment on setbacks in particular?
Yes. I recall that setback when that setback was put into place.
We worked hard on that one, didn't we?
Yeah, and Denise, I think you were elected as a supervisor shortly after that.
Mhm.
And we worked hard on that, and that was a really good thing for the lake, that no industrial, that you're out there on a boat enjoying it or fishing or whatever, and you're not going to see, like in that picture behind you guys, you're not going to see an industrial plant. And you know, it goes all the way to the ridgeline, and that group that caused that, they were trying to do their geothermal plant in the Superfund site. And the Superfund
What could go wrong?
The Superfund site is mentioned in this draft right here too. And they will go after that Superfund site again, because those Unocal wells are still in there, and that's, they want to, when they drill, they want to drill as shallow as possible and get as hot a water as they possibly can. And that Superfund site is an old former, probably the last mouth of the volcano that was up here. And that's where the hottest water is going to be found and the shortest drill.
Right.
And we probably need to say something in here that until that's cleaned up, there's no geothermal going to go in there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Shall we talk about energy policy? And I don't want to talk about energy policy, Margot. I want to talk about how we look at this general plan in light of the fact that the board has said they want an energy policy and they don't have one. And I will make a statement about this. The board basically put on hold, if not rejected, Sonoma Clean Power's offer to offer us community choice here. Their interests were that they wanted to partner with us on geothermal. Our interests were that we wanted cheaper electricity, and that was an opportunity that has been deferred and probably won't come back, in my opinion, but it may. I don't know. The board in response said, oh, we need an energy policy. Years ago, we had an energy policy council that had a number of policies that we felt, including that we wanted as much localized energy as possible. So, but we don't have a standing policy that's been put in the general plan or is developed by the board or anything like that. And you've made some comments and some suggestions that we refer to that, even though it doesn't exist. So I want to first I want to ask staff, how would you respond to a policy that doesn't exist being pointed out in the general plan? Because there's an intention to have the policy. What would
I love it.
You'd love the idea?
Let's make it a policy,
Okay.
because with all the changes in technology and in the industries and the laws and where the support is at government, funding levels, we have an increasing number of inquiries for different types of sustainable energy generation.
Mm-hmm.
So an overall energy element would be an awesome idea. I have been mentioning it to different people, but it definitely gets stronger if it's included in the general
So
plan.
similar to what we talked about with the tribal element, have a future energy element.
Indeed.
Okay.
To cover as many possible sustainable energy options as possible.
Do we need to have a discussion on this? Anybody want to comment on that?
When you say future element, is it going to be incorporated? How is it going to come to fruition?
You'd have to go through.
It could
hearing.
actually either be a general plan element or it could be a policy, something that is developed that shows the direction, the priorities of the county.
So a standalone,
Could be, yeah, I haven't quite envisioned it like fully yet.
Right.
An element would be a long-term visioning document that would incorporate the community's feel, what the community wants to see, as well as probably discussing different types of sustainable energy options in a similar format to what we're seeing now.
so did I hear that there used to be a policy?
No,
Oh, no, there was not.
No, there was a policy council, and there were some presentations made to the board. The board of supervisors never directed an energy policy be developed as part of the plan.
there is an energy ad hoc committee meeting that is meeting now, but it was formed by the board in response to the Sonoma Clean Power discussion.
Right. Whatever that policy is, we want less expensive energy and we want it sustainable and renewable. So,
Right, which doesn't necessarily interpret into a let's make an energy element
right.
result. Yeah.
Yeah, Wes Baker, on that subject, yeah, now I was going to say just what Ray said, is that the board did appoint and it's mentioned also in this plan, is an advisory council on geothermal that was my understanding, I attended all the meetings, was that would be like a county energy policy along with the geothermal and stuff like that of who and does the county want to benefit from it financially or just the benefit of it being here, you know? And I would think those would be one of the same myself. That's just my thought.
All right, thank you. All right. Are there any comments on energy policy incorporating it into the general plan as a policy or a future element? Good idea? Yeah, Margo. Okay. All right, we have a couple other topics on geothermal, but I'd like to move on if there's no big discussion on them. Is there a consensus on strengthening the language to be at least consistent with the 2008 plan and with certain elements?
In relationship to?
Well, it's pointed out in a number of spots in the comments. It's a long list, but maybe review them. It's already been strengthened in a couple cases. It's stronger than 2008 in a couple cases. All right, and let's talk about trails. There's a couple comments that emerged around trails and the geothermal element. Is there anybody that wants to talk about that or elaborate? It looks like they were consistent with one another. I didn't see any
I didn't review them, I'm sorry.
argument. Okay. Wes?
May I go back to just the strengthening of the language?
Sure.
And it should be quick. Is that at GR 3.3, it talks about at the end, at the sunset of the plant, when the plant no longer operates anymore, what do we do with this plant now that's here? In Nevada, there's several of them just outside of Reno that have been vacant and just sitting out there for over 15 years. These plants don't always work. And the people that invest in them don't always want to stay invested in them.
So you're suggesting a bond. Margo
Bond,
suggested a bond.
because what it says here,
like
it
a
just
low number,
says,
though.
it says at that GR 3.3, it just says, make sure there's financial assurances that there'll be a reclamation. There needs to be the strong word of a BOND in
It
there.
needs to be a bond, and it
Yep.
needs to acknowledge that sometimes these sites close because the companies have gone bankrupt or out of the business, so they're not able to do what they said they would do in the beginning.
They're not financially, you close down a thing like that, it's because it ain't making money.
It's not making money, they already spent it, yeah.
And then also in strong language, one more thing added to that is that, so when the plant, let's say I'm running the plant and I end the plant, I can't run it anymore. Obviously, I would try to sell it, right, or lease it to someone else. Is that put a sunset even on that how long can I sit here with this plant saying I'm trying to find a buyer? Because we've got one up on Bottle Rock that goes through that process all the time.
Yeah.
And
So a sunset on
even on
restoring the land to its prior use. prior
right,
to the-
right.
Got
that,
it.
you know, there comes a point in time where it's not going to sell and nobody's going
Right.
to want it.
Thank you. All right.
So just a technicality
Yeah.
question. So does that bond last forever? So if I'm a company and I come in and I post a bond to assure that there's funds to clean up the place if I leave suddenly, you know, but I don't. So I'm successful, I'm financially
It'd
successful.
be like I'm a mine owner in Nevada, and you file a reclamation bond on the mine that if we disappeared tomorrow, that insurance company is going to pay to reclaim that back to where it's supposed to be.
So
And so it's a reclamation bond, and it's a standard thing.
It's like an insurance policy.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's not a cash bond they would put up.
Okay.
They would buy it from an insurance company. Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. Let's, are we ready to move on from the geothermal element? Are there any comments beyond?
I just had a couple, there's a question and some interesting proposals from some of our committee members. There is a proposal that, as it stated, that basically Lake County residents would have first call on locally produced energy.
Yeah, that's actually part of the energy plan. I don't think we're
Oh.
not going to write the energy policy here.
Oh, that's going to be, okay. My question was, can you even legally do that? I don't know.
We currently have bonds for mines and geothermal permits already, and we do an annual financial assurance check as part of our inspection.
Right, and those bonds are, in the 2008 plan, it says bond. So let's make sure it says it in the new one too.
Cool.
Okey-doke.
I have one more, and then I'm pretty much done.
Okay.
And I think we're done talking about geothermal too. So just something to consider. I'm not saying this has to be done, but it's something to consider. Is that these plants also, they change ownership, and they change ownership a lot. And again, you know, Bottle Rock has gone through I think even DWR owned it at one time. Is that when there's over a 51% change in ownership, should the major use permit be reevaluated at that time or something? Because usually when new owners come in, they have new ideas. And they have new plans, and they want to change things around. And it may not be in conform with what was on the major use permit.
Maria will probably answer this, but a major use permit, change in ownership doesn't trigger the change as much as change in plans.
Correct. Use permits follow the land. They're not connected
Yeah, they
to
follow the
ownership.
land, not the.
Not the ownership. Okay. Thank you.
All right, let's move into the noise element. Oh yeah, come on up.
My name's Norm Kimes, lives just south of Lower Lake. I can't keep quiet about this. All energy companies I have experience with are pirates, pure and simple. I own a piece of property in Washington State. There's a transmission natural gas line that came through in 1954. They wrote the easement for the pipeline to describe the entire 6.2 acres. This is a policy that still exists within our energy companies. You can't trust them. It's up to us, me and you, to protect whoever's alive in the future from that kind of piracy. Where's the rainfall in Lower Lake? It belongs to Yolo County. Let's not do that again. We can't trust Sonoma Clean Power or whatever name is on the truck to be thinking about us. So the language in whatever permitting, in whatever process, and I think like a farmer. You guys, I am drowning in the words here. But they have to be succinct and specific to protecting us. Because in my farmer head, I think of geothermal as there's this balloon underground, massive, massive pressures. There's stuff that it's supporting. We want to drill holes and we just want to suck some of that out. Well, when you do that, I've seen balloons go low. Things have to, it has to subside. There's earthquakes, there's change in all the aquifers. So I know I'm asking a lot. Impossible. But
I think what
I
you're
agree
asking
with
is
the language.
consistent with what the committee has asked for too, strengthen the
I think
language.
so too. I
Yeah.
just need to
Great.
talk.
Thank you. And I would agree.
I apologize.
Phil?
I apologize for my confusion, but, so there was a proposal that we got, that was a specific proposal to revise GR 2.4, right? So that's, and 2.4 talks about encouraging cooperative exploration of opportunities for buying wholesale power to local agencies. A good idea. But the suggestion was we go beyond that and we require that county residents get the first right of refusal to locally produced energy.
Right, I hear what you're saying. Okay.
And my only question about that is, sounds cool, but is that even legally possible to mandate that a privately owned company share its product in a specific way, intriguing idea.
I don't know the answer to that.
I believe that's a topic of conversation in the energy policy.
Yeah, I think we should, well, I think what we
Rather
decided to do was defer that to the energy policy and not have it be in the geothermal policy.
We're gonna take out GR 2.4 out of this
No.
and put it somewhere else?
Well, let's talk about that. The policy says, encourage the cooperative exploration of opportunities, providing wholesale power to local agencies
Mm-hmm.
from transmission lines constructed in their vicinity, as well as local geothermal energy distribution in the county. I mean, we could have a general policy like that. Margot was suggesting that we add this first right of refusal of locally produced energy. I mean, I don't know what, this is such weak language, encourage the cooperation. It doesn't really make that big of a difference at this point.
Right.
But I guess I'll ask staff if you want to clarify. I just put a big question mark by that. I don't know what it means.
Nope.
Is why it's in there.
Sometimes some of this language is vague, even though, like, encourage doesn't mean that we won't ever move forward on it. It's not meant to be unenforceable. It's meant to be a guideline so that when we have an opportunity, we can do it.
Oh, so we could say something like, look for opportunities for Lake County residents to have lower wholesale energy costs.
I love that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's.
Look for opportunities.
Yeah,
Seek,
And that's
investigate.
what I was looking for
Oh, we
was,
solved it.
Yeah.
There we go.
was a
Yeah.
legal
Seek
question,
opportunity.
there, now we have action words. We're getting good, we're getting better. Yep, I can see Sharon nodding her head. We got that same message in a different plan.
Yeah, it's all aspirational.
Yep.
All right. Wes.
Yeah, just
Wait,
one
hold
more,
on a
was that,
second. Margot.
if you want it for Lake County, if you want the Lake County to have that opportunity, I believe you should say Lake County, because if you say local, DWR is local.
Got it.
This is the state of California, and they want
Okay.
as much power cheaper than PG&E as they can get.
Got it. Margot, you had something you wanted to add?
Something in general for this section of the geothermal resource is that there are some assumptions that are unspoken here. It is assumed that we have a solution. It is assumed pretty much that we're going to go with a CSA, or CCA, sorry, CCA.
Oh, I don't know. I don't
Well,
assume that.
maybe-
I don't
okay.
assume that anymore. I mean, even though most of the state has done it and their ratepayers are benefiting.
But when I was reading this draft, I definitely got the feeling that, oh, I'm being steered. That we are definitely, there's a direction here. So what I would suggest in general would that let's not assume that we have an energy policy solution yet, or if we do, let's be upfront about it and say, here are our assumptions.
Okay, you want to make a list?
I could have one ready for our next meeting. How's that?
Good enough. I mean, unspoken assumptions, it's always good to know what those are. For example, I've seen proposals that talk about transportation when in fact we assume there'll be plenty of trucking continuing in the future. We assume that everybody's going to continue to order on Amazon. It'll arrive in a truck. I mean, I've seen technologies that have packages being delivered by drone, and it already exists. So who knows? Maybe the investment should go in the airports, not in the roads. Anyway, onward.
We
can
do
move?
have one hand on Zoom.
We have a hand up on Zoom. Who is this?
Sterling. Go ahead, Sterling.
Sterling, what do you have to add?
Not kind of add, but maybe add and ask. So with the general plan, you guys keep talking about an energy policy, but an energy policy would go along with the geothermal resource element inside this also. So my question would be, wouldn't it be better for us to be safe than sorry to make sure that this is included in there in our general plan? Because the general plan is also going to give the general public a general outview of what's going to be happening in the next 25 years.
Yeah, thank you. All right.
I'm trying to take notes and I kind of missed the
She was suggesting that
suggestion.
energy policy be part of the general plan, which I think there's an option there, that it be a policy or that it be
I have a
new
note
element in the general plan.
that we discussed adding
And
a goal or policy to have an energy element in the future.
Yes,
But at this point,
yes.
we wouldn't have
Similar
that.
to the tribal or the cultural resources.
Correct.
All right. Shall we move into noise? Okay. Hearing no objection, let's talk about the noise element now. There were a few questions, but let's move into comments about this and conversation. Yeah, Phil.
I just want to at this point, make a general comment when we're going from one section to another. And I just want to say that I really appreciated Sharon's work on what she calls aspirational language. I love that term. That's great. That's something I've been wrestling with for my whole career, working with colleges and universities. Same issue, is do you really have a plan here, or do you just have a bunch of aspirations, And I think there is a difference. It is a significant difference. And I really would, as we move towards a final draft, that wherever we can, we as she suggested, abandon the aspirational adjectives and adverbs in favor of action words. Action words are things that, real goals, real plans are things that can be measured, quantified, and then, as it's also been suggested, we will move back towards a more accountability model where then these plans are assigned to particular agencies or processes within a given agency, and even to community agencies. I think that's important, so that we move back towards kind of this, here's the plan, here are the objectives, and here are the activities of that objective, and here's going to be whose feet are going to be held to the fire to see, at least provide leadership to see that those things are done. But I just wanted to compliment my fellow board member and lend my support to that kind of perspective on the plan in general.
Right, and I'm not sure I saw any, in the comments that came through that I saw, I didn't see any major topics of disagreement. I mean, one thing we talked about was avoidance rather than mitigation again. And, lean toward avoidance as opposed to mitigating. But are there any topics we need to, you saw the comments, are there any areas that we need to discuss where there's disagreement?
We did not note any disagreement in the
Yeah,
summaries.
I didn't see it.
Right,
either.
not in this batch.
Okay. All right, well, I'll open it up for comments then, if there's anybody that wants to sort of emphasize their point.
I noticed that there were the airport compatibility policy, at least as I saw it, was dropped. And so my wonderment is how that's being addressed for the county for the import for the airport. Where does that live now?
Are you talking about a specific plan, or did we not discuss air noise impacts from air?
Well,
Just so I understand what we're talking about.
N 1.6.
Let me pull that up. One moment.
To my
it just seems like that there needs to be a little tighter regulatory oomph to covering that.
Sorry, I'm still on geothermal. Let
My
me catch up.
notes,
One moment.
I'm looking at my notes on 1.6.
It's way down there, huh? So N 1.6 on page N-33?
Which is equivalent requirement for noise standards compliance for airport for adjacent development. I sent it in on my comment.
Ah, you're saying that it's missing.
It's missing, yeah, like I
Okay.
got
That's what I
that down
said,
on my
Good.
notes
that-
too.
that
It
it
was
was- yeah.
removed as a standalone policy. It's
Right.
likely absorbed into other elements, maybe?
So that was my one.
We will make sure that, yeah.
I
Yeah,
didn't
so-
see it, so
I
wondered
noticed that was
where it
missing.
went.
There were a couple others that were missing too. The old plan had 1.8, coordination with Caltrans was removed. That might be in the transportation element, maybe. There was a policy shift on ag noise, it seemed.
Correct. That was another one that
1.9.
was eliminated. And
1.10 was,
Yep.
was eliminated state installation standards enforcement, which is probably in the building code, but that was eliminated. 111 vehicle code enforcement was eliminated. That was the old general plan 111. And outdoor entertainment venues, that's probably in the area, in the local area plans. It's not.
N-1.B, update the county code of ordinances to address noise impacts from outdoor entertainment venues.
What number is that?
N-1.B, it's on
1.B,
page
okay.
N-35.
Okay, got it. Okay.
If I may just add to, just on the airport question, that those airport land use compatibility policies were moved to the local area plans that are adjacent to the airport, and they're in the circulation section.
should that not also be noted in the noise element?
Probably mentioned at least.
Seems like that's an important noise.
Mm-hmm.
Is there Mireya, is there a plan to update the airport plan? Or is there going to be?
So far, it exists only in my personal desire.
Oh, okay.
Once we get funding, we'll launch that one.
Can you
So-
get, funding the plan to plan? And then once you have a plan, you can get funding to do the thing.
There you go.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
Got it.
That's not
Understood.
circular.
I understand.
I just have a wonderment too in the goal statement, an acceptable noise environment in all areas of the county. So it's back to the aspirational, acceptable by whom, by what measure?
Yeah, so we do define those standards in the zoning code. In the Article 41. It's also covered in
just
the
say that.
airport land use
Yeah,
compatibility.
Maybe say
plan.
that.
Yeah, maybe give some reference, because that is
Good,
just like
yeah.
acceptable to me.
As described
you?
in, yeah,
To-
yeah.
To whom? Okay.
Yep.
So,
Squishy.
and just, thank you for the comment about the aspirational language. It's sort of a thing that I've noticed. But I think there are a lot of things in here that are valuable, that are good. They don't have any teeth. And my experience in drawing up plans and these kinds of things, if there's no teeth, there's nobody responsible, there's no measure, there's no, it just sort of,
Yeah, it gets
Nice to
squishy.
have.
If it
so
does, if it does have teeth, well, if we do have teeth because we have it in the zoning or code, or if we have it in a special ordinance of some kind, it might be worthwhile just referring to that.
Yeah, if it lives some other place that has substantive language for implementation, I think that would be good to me. But when you read it and there's no other attribution or reference, it falls
You can't
sort of
enforce it.
amorphously into the ether.
Or you may not know that the zoning code is the mechanism by which we roll out and enforce the community's vision expressed in the general plan.
Right.
So with that information, that would then give whatever that reference is, that would give it the teeth and the accountability that otherwise these sentences
Yeah.
don't give any. And without any of that, all these wonderful things may or may not happen because nobody is accountable for them happening.
I think we are definitely hearing the message about the aspirational language, and yeah, I think we're clear on
Every
it.
time I'm at a meeting, I do mention it.
We can
Yes.
move on.
Thank you.
No, that's really
Thank you.
powerful. Thank you very much. And
We
Phil,
have-
thanks for also highlighting
Yeah,
that.
couple
We have
quick, yeah,
Betsy Kahn online
even in
also.
my own community, when the community clearly says, you're not supposed to make a bunch of noise, okay. But of course, the question became,
How much?
how much is noise? Now, fortunately, the county had a standard that we could look to, and so we took that standard and said, this is the standard. So if your neighbor's making noise above this level,
Got
go
it.
get.
Decibels.
And I was just going to mention in passing that some of these that from the previous general plan that mention, basically there's a number of these that mention that say essentially the county will obey the law. We will obey state law on this and CHP on that. I mean, of course you would. I mean, it goes without saying, I guess is what I'm saying. It's not,
Yeah.
you don't have a choice anyway.
Thank you. So we have Betsy?
Betsy?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Betsy.
Betsy.
No, thank you. I want to reflect just for a second on what Sharon Zoller was saying. Yeah, I've made that same comment in reference to the variety of issues related to water resources, where some elements are in public health and safety, some are in land use. I mean, it's just all scattered around. There's no integrated body of language that comes together, where then you could refer to the authorities, the instruments of authority that govern those policies and goals. I find this a problem throughout the whole document. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. All right. Are we done talking about noise? Kyle?
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to also just put in there, I think there should be some language around, again, consulting with tribes on any development, because noise can definitely disrupt cultural practices that might be taking place in certain areas. So I think there needs to be some language in a lot of these different sections around how tribes will be engaged to provide some input on any impacts that noise will have in certain areas. If there's cultural practices that are taking place in certain areas, because they do, again, noise does play a huge disruptor to ceremony. Just an example, during Memorial Weekend, there's ceremonies that happen near the lake, and we have boats constantly driving by because it is Memorial Weekend, and it is very disruptive. We actually had Sheriff Brian Martin a few years ago come by and realized that he didn't really know that those ceremonies were taking place during Memorial Weekend and how disruptive it was to have motorboats coming through. So just an example of how noise can really impact cultural practices that might be taking place in certain areas. So again, having some language in there to allow tribal input on how any development would impact, with regard to noise, might impact cultural practices.
So you'd have so they would ban boats on the lake during certain times? Is that what you're suggesting?
No, I wouldn't want. I don't know how strong of an opportunity we would have, but I know that during the conversations, Sheriff Martin, because between Rattlesnake Island and Elam, there's that small little section where boats are zooming by, and also looking at how tribes have, how far off shoreline can control boating in those areas. So there was discussions at that point to close down just that section of the lake.
Yeah, that passed through there.
Yeah, so there are discussions around that, but I think,
Yeah,
again, I think it's specific to each tribal community that I think those discussions could have.
Sure. So you have,
Similar
no boat
to closing a road when you're having a street fair or a parade.
or airspace. We do the same thing for airspace. no-fly zones. You can have no boat zones in a prescribed area then, yeah.
All right. Okay. Any other business that we need to talk about?
Back to that agenda.
No? Yes.
To piggyback on what our colleague Sharon Zoller had mentioned about aspirational language. So I'm not sure what to expect when we see the next draft. So we have one, it looks like a policy, proposed policy, GR 5.1 under geothermal, and it has no action. Oh, it has a goal. Oh, no, it's a goal. And there are 4 policies, but there's only one action. So are we going to see a more fleshed out thought on this goal? Ensure that future geothermal projects do not adversely affect groundwater or surface water quality, to diminish supply needed for domestic and agricultural uses, and seek opportunities to minimize adverse impacts of any existing geothermal operations. I mean, that's not like an optional thing. That's critical. So
you're suggesting an ordinance follow that?
I don't know.
I don't know, okay.
But
Maria, do
we
you
need
wanna-
more.
Is there
than that.
possibly a suggestion that an action be created? Because we are not planning on doing any more writing necessarily unless prompted to do so. So is that a recommendation that we think of an action to follow that policy?
It sounds like it's a recommendation that there's an action that puts some teeth into that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And part of it is because of where the state is, where geothermal developers want to go, and some of the cautionary presentations that were made today as to, people's or these companies' intent.
I apologize. Could you restate that, Margot?
Certainly, Shannon. This is GR 5.1. It's a goal. No action for the policy.
And do you have suggested language?
Yes, but I don't have that language with me right now. So there is the goal. It has 4 policies, but there's only one action. GR-5.A, coordinate with geothermal industry to determine long-term water needs. That's not sufficient.
No.
So the recommendation is to flesh that out a little bit more.
Yeah,
with
get some
actions.
actions that
More for protection
that will
for
protect
the environment and the community.
Exactly.
Got it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that would be good, and we could focus on that. Take a look at that once they come up with some suggestions there.
So I just have a question. Before we go, can you clarify the process of all the various input that you have gotten over the last weeks and months, and what you'll get going forward? How is that handled? How is it decided whether or not it's going to be incorporated? How does that work? And who's the deciding? Who's the deciding person? Who's the decider?
Who's the decider?
That's it. Thank you. Yeah, who's the decider?
Tanya, why don't you describe the next May and June, what we'll be doing
Yeah, happy
internally?
to. Yeah, so we've been compiling the input that's coming in. There's a big task of just kind of organizing it and understanding, what comes in and what it relates to. And so we're compiling that and organizing it. And then our plan is to review that with county staff, item by item, and make a decision on what change to make, if any, based on the comment. And so we've been doing that. We've been organizing the GPAC comments as they come in. And as you know, we also have the survey that will also bring in additional comments. So it's a pretty big task, and it'll take some time to go through everything. And we want all of it. We kind of want to have everything on our plate so we can look at everything together to in order to make informed decisions that reflect, and understand all of what the comments are.
So in the August-September timeframe, when the almost final draft will be reviewed, will that draft then reflect all the comments that have been accepted
choices,
and
yeah.
incorporated? And if perchance there was some that there were a group of folks that thought were really important and wasn't incorporated?
I will be able to speak to those decisions.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so
And August and September is when we're having the hearings with the Planning Commission. And
Okay.
but I'll let the GPAC know as soon as we have a clear date for release of those documents for review ahead of those meetings, just so we can have that GPAC recap.
And I think that's what you were asking for,
well,
was it?
what I'm hoping for is, I mean, I will love to see the new documents as soon as you can get them, but you're going to go through and have a decision-making meeting or series of meetings on all this input. You're going to say yes, no, defer, right? I mean, you're going to have whatever decisions are made. Before that even gets written, it would be good to know whose comments were accepted or what comments were accepted and rejected, or misunderstood. I mean, there could be some that you just look at again and say, I don't get it. But it would be good to know if there are some that you're rejecting that this group felt really strongly about having in there, just so we could, at least write a rebuttal letter.
Sure.
If that happens, I can't imagine that actually happening like that, but anyway.
It
might.
I'll see if I can work it in. I don't
Yeah, I
know,
mean,
because there are other top priorities that I have to turn to during the internal review period time.
Right.
The board's waiting for the short-term rental and the low-impact camping ordinances. But as much as possible, I will try to convey the process that we went through.
And if there are there are not that many controversial areas, if there are some that you feel that.
Right. I am typically, as we've gone along, I am typically the final voice.
The other question I have is that we do not have a circulation element. Those are included in the local area plans. But we have, people presenting proposals that look like circulation
Holly
suggestions.
wrote one, yeah.
And I don't know how we would consider
That has been taken in and will be considered during the internal consideration review process.
Got it. Okay. All right.
It's not a no. It's I can't tell you this stuff right now. I don't know.
You don't know?
Yeah.
Okay. Go.
Along the lines of your suggestion, Madam Chair, I think it would be in the interest of transparency and thoroughness if there were a log of input and what the decision was, in or out.
That's kind of what I was asking for. You said it better. So
Excellent.
thank you.
Excellent.
Yeah, just was it considered, and it doesn't have to be accepted or rejected. It could be that's deferred, that we're not ready for it yet. Like some of the energy things have to wait, right? Okay.
I've got another.
Yes, Kyle.
Maria, I was just curious, what is the county's approach to engaging with tribes on this process? Has it been like element by element? Because I know that there may have been a lot of input that's been provided. So could you just share with me how the approach has been? Because I'm thinking like if there's an opportunity we convene the tribes every month. A few of the tribes are pretty proactive in attending some gatherings that we have. And I'm wondering if that might be a forum where we could get more tribal input if that's not already happening. I don't want to assume that it's not happening, but just.
I appreciate that. Thank you. We have had meetings just with tribes, like the TIPOs typically are the ones that come, but we've also had some chairs and vice chairs from the tribes also participating in meetings. We also set aside, prior to the February release of these public documents, we had a whole time period set aside just for tribal review to answer any questions and to take the edits. And so we did get a number of edits from different tribes. Also, Terry let me know that the land acknowledgement with the whole list of the villages will actually be ready for you on the meeting, the tribal breakfast. So we're excited about that. And so we have had ongoing discussions with the tribes, either at the TIPO meetings that we have here or at the previous meetings that we've had all along. And that doesn't even include also the making sure that we're following the AB 52, SB 18 consultation processes as well.
And so has that been pretty, of the 7 tribes, has there been was it over half the tribes are engaging in that? All the tribes are engaging in that? Just trying to see
I
if
don't
there's
think,
a gap in.
I don't know that all of them are. Some are very engaged. Like Robert Geary has been really good at getting his team to do edits on a number of the different elements. And you'll see a lot of that reflected, particularly in preservation of tribal cultural resources and taking into, and you'll also see it in the economic development, recognizing that though tribes are sovereign nations, we're community members. And so for businesses and things like that, the priority that is countywide to support small businesses also includes tribal businesses.
Yeah, I'm just curious
Things
because
like
not
that.
all the tribes have a TIPO or a strong
Right.
presence with TIPO. So just making sure that that isn't the only forum that's being pursued as far as engagement. But maybe we can get together afterwards and just
Absolutely.
getting them
Yeah.
on the agenda. Thank
I
you.
would
We
welcome
hosted a
that.
special meeting in October for tribes, and in addition to Robert, Middletown Rancheria has been pretty vocal.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle.
We
Maria,
also have one hand online.
1 second. I have a question of timeline. So you have on your letter of March or your email of March 13th to the GPAC, you have a series of meetings. Friday, April 17th is the next one covering the
Yes.
health and safety element. You mentioned that you want responses due by the end of the day, Wednesday, April 8th, which is coming
Correct.
up in 5 days, and that you will have the compilation of survey responses a couple days later.
Correct.
On the 10th.
And that meeting will now be hybrid. We got an IT guy.
Okay, so that will be a hybrid meeting. I just want to remind the GPAC then that you need to be working on the health and safety element because the responses are due on Wednesday.
It is super helpful if you would direct your responses to the survey also. I have forwarded during this meeting all the various GPAC emails that were like, oh, maybe didn't do the survey, but here's
Yeah,
all
they
my
didn't get
responses.
included in the matrix.
Yeah, and
so
those
it was
are not
harder.
assimilated as tidy. But I did make sure that they were all forwarded to the internal working team as well as our central email address.
Right.
But it sure would be neat. Be
Well,
super
what's
cool.
helpful, if you can get it into the survey, it helps to know where there's areas of conflict that we have to have conversations about.
Mhm.
All right. So who was there an online
Yep. Sterling, last comment. Go ahead.
last comment? Go ahead.
Okay, yes, thank you. I just want to kind of piggyback on what Margaret was just saying with the geothermal. I know Lake County can add a energy policy and it can be added underneath the geothermal part and it's not against the law. And in California, if they want, they can add their own energy policy to the not the geothermal, but to the general plan. Because as of right now, we all know that energy is coming to Lake County no matter what. We're not stopping it, it's coming. So this general plan that's coming up, I think is the most important to make sure that we have an energy policy added to this. Because it's coming, we're not stopping it. GEX is coming, they're proposing 100 milliwatt geothermal plant right there by Clear Lake's wastewater treatment plant.
Megawatt.
So
All right.
Megawatt, thank you.
Thank you.
And so I just really think it's very, very, very important. And there is a way that they absolutely can add an energy policy to this geothermal, or not geothermal, but to the general plan. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Sterling. All right. Any other? Margot and then.
Madam Chair, we did not cover cumulative impacts.
That's right. We didn't. That's because on my notes I wrote CU, and I'm like, what does that mean? We did not cover cumulative impacts on any of these, on noise or any of this. So
So are you talking about the EIR?
we're talking about the
That's where cumulative impacts
the policies in the general plan as these projects come forward, whether they're going to create noise or whether they're going to create environmental water issues or whether they're going to create geothermal plants. They come to us in pieces, but there needs to be a look at the policy needs to be that we look at it cumulatively. So if it's, for example, and I'll just use the Dollar General because that's an easy one. They're coming in with one proposal at a time for a Dollar General here, a Dollar General there. The question is, how many Dollar Generals do they have planned, and where are they going to go, and what's going to be the impact on our retail, blah, 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 right? So the policy in the general plan at a high level needs to be to ask entities that are entering the county with such proposals, what their plans are, that we need to know what their long-term, rather than have it be piecemeal. And we also need to look at the cumulative impacts to make sure that we're okay with that.
Would they not consider that proprietary information?
Whether they do or don't, you can't, the environment is going to respond to the accumulation of these things.
True, I mean, I understand. But
Yeah, they might consider that proprietary. That's what they'll say.
Sure.
But what we can say is that we have a policy that you need to disclose what your plans are.
Yeah,
I don't think that
I don't think that's enforceable, and CEQA is applied to each project individually at that specific
This is why our environment is degrading. This is why it's happening. Because we look at these in pieces when we need to look at the whole system.
Yep.
It would be very difficult to do that analysis without a project description that would include everything, which we would not have because it would include multiple different locations.
We should probably
Let
have
me
a
think about that
yeah,
one.
think about it.
'cause
And look at what other places are doing.
Yeah, because I don't want to step ahead of CEQA
Right.
and require an EIR level project for every single use permit. That's totally not
No.
feasible.
Yeah.
So cumulative impacts are something that you typically will find in a
In the
full
environment.
EIR document, but we do assess impacts according to state law on initial studies as well, using that checklist as is appropriate for that location where that specific project is required.
Well, and think about the policy language that might work. I mean,
And I don't know that you're talking about, like, okay, let's think about Dollar General. Let's say they wanted 20 of them, which I'm sure they would have been happy to if we could have supported it. You're sort of more interested in the cumulative impacts in certain categories, not necessarily impacts to water, but
exactly.
economic development.
Well, it
or
depends.
things
Like if
that.
it were somebody coming in
So-
and wanting to grow a certain plant, and they were going to have, multiple instances of this happening in a given area.
Yeah.
One at a time. I guess the last one to apply doesn't get it. Or are we?
Do you have a maximum threshold in the first place?
Yeah.
So a lot of that is needs to be thought of. If it would help, Margot, or anybody who's interested in this question, if you think about which of those certain categories would be of particular interest when you're processing a permit for a single store.
Or
Madam
a
Chair.
single
Donna Mathis.
industrial plant.
Another, going off of that is something the general plan doesn't look at is all the money that the Blue Ribbon Committee for the Rehabilitation of Clear Lake projects have brought in. It's not negatively affecting the future. It does follow CEQA, but we don't recognize that in any areas,
True.
We do in the planning division.
but not in general plan.
I would think that actually it's kind of a reverse. It's the general plan desire to improve the quality of the lake water and maintain blah, 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 that would support the grants to get that project that's now going to be going on in the lake.
Okay.
That's how it kind of works through. And so the community's vision is not so much saying, whoa, we're not sure about this. It's saying, we really want these projects that benefit the health of our lake.
Okay.
Right.
We do CEQA and NEPA for a number of these projects as well. So it's not like we're just opening the gate, bring us all your projects. We don't care what sort of impact they have. We are assessing all of that as it comes in.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just
Well,
wa-
and
But it
some
wouldn't
of
come
these are-
in if we
and
didn't
some
have a
of these,
general
again,
plan
are
that said we
value-
really wanted this.
Some of these, again, are value statements. I mean, you're hearing from this committee that we want to preserve and restore ecological integrity, that we want to preserve natural beauty and the wide open spaces and the rural character of our community. We don't want to see another piecemeal
Right.
thing, and it happened in the 60s and 70s here where there was just a ton of stuff that probably
Totally.
shouldn't have happened.
But we're not just hearing it from this committee. You're resonating what actually came up in our very first survey.
Yep.
Lake-wide, everybody cares about the rural beauty, the health of the lake, the small business atmosphere, the ag, the idyllic view sheds that we have.
Yeah, so we're hearing these value-based statements that this is what we care about.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that that is
Sure.
absolutely reflected in our general plan.
And I think that's kind of what it goes back to is we could make those statements, but if it's the primary language or framing of is mitigating, then we kind of are right back to we could want all those things to want to protect. We could
Reacting
want to
rather than
the,
proacting.
the health of the lake, but
Rather than
what are the
prevent.
mechanisms to say no?
Mhm.
And those are the types of things I think from a tribal perspective, we want to be a part of those things in making sure that there is a little bit more teeth to these documents that leverage our ability to work together to not just talk about the importance of protecting or preserving, but actually to what is the mechanism of when we would say no.
In Vermont, years and years ago, and I can't remember the name of the act, it was something like Act 250 or something, they said, we want to preserve the rural character of our state. And in order for a McDonald's to get built, it wasn't an environmental impact report. It was they had to meet the rural character of the community. And there were many projects that were denied because they would have ruined what made Vermont special. And I do think there's some language in what they did, and it probably required at the state level for them an act of the legislature. But at a county level, this is where it would happen, right? In this document.
And I think you have to go through some thought processes about how it would actually, work.
Right.
I mean, when Pogo's Pizza came and said, we want to build a pizza parlor, over on Soda Bay Road, we didn't think to say, now are you going to build any more pizza parlors, which they,
And is
in fact,
Pogo's
they
the
want,
one
they
we
would like
wanna
to, if they were successful in
inhibit?
their first 10 years, they would have, but, I have trouble sometimes.
And what happens in
hear
the
the
next 20
words,
years if Trader
and I
Joe's
hear the
wants to come?
value,
Do we
but I'm-
stand in the way of that one too?
Pardon?
If
know a
Trader
perfect
Joe's wants to
I have a
come,
perfect location for
right?
that.
So we have to be careful about what we're inhibiting or prohibiting.
It is Act 250, Vermont's landmark 1970 land use law that regulated large-scale commercial and residential developments to prevent environmental damage and unplanned sprawl.
Well, and I think that there are a lot of towns around that have that kind of thing. I know in the state of Maine, they have a very similar kind of philosophy and application. Right close in the village of Mendocino, they don't allow any sort of chain, whatever.
Yeah, because it would ruin it.
So this
Because
is a good
so-
comment, and we'll take it in. I want us to, we just covered our next steps, but one last thought, sorry, and I'm sorry, I totally just interrupted you, Sharon. But I was thinking about yesterday in the Kelseyville plan, where that community very strongly wants an area plan and a general plan that does not inhibit development, that encourages and doesn't discourage or make them scared. So there's a lot of really interesting viewpoints that might seem contradictory, but are not. They're actually synthesizable. I don't know if that's a word, but they all kind of overlap.
Yeah, and I mean, ironically, historically, some of the developments that have taken natural, undeveloped land and converted it to something else are the HOAs. I mean, the developers built, Riviera Heights, Riviera West, Kelseyville Riviera, all those. That, the Kelseyville River has 2,500 sites in it, whereas before there was nothing there. So, it gets kind of ironic when you say, well, we're going to preserve. Okay, And what about another residential development? Does that preserve or does that take away
That's
from?
why you have community growth boundaries, and you say where you want those things to go, right? You don't want them everywhere. You want them, yeah. Margot?
Something to consider when we talk about cumulative impacts, and that is, now that we have some of our land use issues scattered among the 8 separate local area plans, consider development, consider what it can do to the environment, potentially. if trees have to be removed. Well, if you look at it only at one project at a time in one area plan area versus 2, 3 to 8, it doesn't look like a big deal. But we also have to consider what is that doing to our tree environment and to our whole ecosystem for our trees, especially when our trees, our beloved oaks, are
At risk.
yeah, with Mediterranean oak borer, with drought, and we have each month we have that tree mortality emergency. Oh, scramble the letters. I mean the word order. But every month, the Board of Supervisors proclaims we are in a tree mortality emergency.
Yeah.
So where are we going to have that?
If
that
there were a
vision
land use
here?
element, that's where cumulative impacts would be the conversation, right? It can't really exist as a standalone in every local area plan. And same with circulation too. All right.
Stephen Wolski, I am so impressed with all of you. I really am. What I have been hearing from you today, this, Sharon, aspirational? How about proactive? Proactive planning. I sent a proposal last night, whether you all had a chance to read it. It's for what somebody would say, no, we don't want that here. 2 logistics hubs. We don't have a train station, so we can't have a bunch of product brought here on a train and you go to the depot and you pick your stuff up, the last mile delivery being on a small truck. We got these big trucks on the road. They're noisy. I am a retired business consultant. My proposals might sound a lot more like a business plan than a general plan, maybe even more like a grand plan. If we were to have 2 logistics hubs, warehouse districts, at highways 20 and 29 and 20 and 53, the trucks would come up, they would drop off their product, and goodbye. They wouldn't be driving around and delivering to this little business and that little business. I am the grandson of Warren and Ruth Dearborn, Dearborn's Bible bookstores. My father bought the business from my grandparents. They had a little warehouse where everything was delivered to a warehouse for 4 stores. My father went out and got a new store in Hayward with a bomb shelter, 30 feet underground, turned that into the logistics hub for all 4 stores, saving a lot of money having everything delivered to one location. Part of the reason why I became a business consultant is because I understand logistics. When you have somebody coming in, big truck, going to all the little mom and pop stores, delivering whatever product, a box here, a box there, here a box, there a box, everywhere a box. Old MacDonald had a farm. It's something that we need to have proactive thinking. And what I hear from each of you is a passion for the beauty of this county, to preserve it. A logistics hub would be 100 to 160 acres. It wouldn't be all warehouses right away, but you build tree boundary around it.
Steve, I'm going to stop you right there and just say, it's not a proposal we're considering today, but if you could if you could wrap it up.
I was trying to think, where is this proposal going to fit in? And it fits into noise. And you do have it in writing, and it's complete. So I don't really have to take up a lot of your time.
Yeah.
But I just think that I'm just so impressed with all of you and what you're thinking. I really am. And I just have to express that. And you've read my proposals. They sound like business proposals. And Kyle, I haven't been able to get emails to you. So you probably haven't read the Anderson Marsh Gateway Project, because that includes an Indigenous Persons Museum. And I really would like to get an email address from you that actually works, so I can communicate with you, please. Okay?
All right, thank you.
And you can read my emails,
We got
and I have more proposals coming, by the way.
We did receive it, and actually, I want to talk with you about it afterwards.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Anything else from staff?
Nope.
All right. Remember, comments are due via survey on Wednesday.
Did you have something, Paul? Betsy lowered her hand. Betsy, you can raise your hand again now if you would still like
If you
to
have a
speak before we wrap up.
Wrap-up comment, Betsy?
I just want to go back to well, it kind of ties to what Steve was saying, but to go back to this question about how do you deal with individual businesses. There's a phase in planning where there are things called developer agreements. And I would think that it would be reasonable to ask corporate enterprises to have a developer agreement, even if they just want to build one store. That's a suggestion.
All right, thank you. Good one. All right, with that, let's adjourn this meeting and get ready for the next one.